Well, this is Jack Jackson. We're going to be looking today at using a calculator to compute trigonometric functions values and inverse trigonometric function values. Now, we've already looked at how to do these things without a calculator, so you have an understanding of what they're talking about, hopefully by this point. But in practice, we're going to use a calculator to always compute these. Now, the first thing, I'm going to do things here on two calculators, the TI-84 Plus and then the TI-nspire CAS version. Let's start with the TI-84 Plus. The first thing you need to make sure is look at it in mode. And I'm going to start by making sure that everything is on the left here highlighted, and so that we'll be in radian mode here. So it makes a big difference when you're working with this, whether your calculator is in radian mode or degree mode. So anytime you're going to do any kind of calculation in this class with a trig function or an inverse trig function, always check to see that you know what mode you're in and that you're in the mode you want to be in. So if I say sine, and I can put in a value that's sine of 0.5 radians, and it will work out very nicely. Okay, so if I say so now if I want to do this in terms of, like I could put something with pi, I could say the cosine of pi over 3, and we get that's a half. So again, that pi over 3, or that 0.5, is in radians, or similarly the tangent of, I don't know, 1.3. And we can compute those values. Now, suppose you want to do degrees. Well, the way you would do this by writing it is you would say sine of, say, 35 degrees, and you need a degree symbol. You can get that by going angle, which is second and apps, and it's the first one there, so I can just hit enter, close parentheses, and enter. And that's sine of 35 degrees. If I just put sine of 35, then it means 35 radians, which we haven't talked about how to even do this yet, because so far we've only talked about sine, cosine, and tangent of an acute angle. Alright, so that's basically how we can compute trig functions, and these are accurate to as many decimal places as the calculator has. Now, another thing that we can do, if we're going to do a lot of these calculations and we're always in degrees, we can switch our mode to degrees instead of radians. So method 1 is to always leave it in radians and just put the degree symbol when you need it. But method 2 is now we can say sine of 35, and notice that this time it interprets that as 35 degrees without having to type the degree symbol. So if you're doing a bunch of these with degrees, it might save you a little typing to put it in degree mode and then not have to worry about writing or typing the degree symbol. Now you still have to write it when you write it down, but you don't have to type it that way. Okay, similarly over here on the TI-nspire, everything works the same way. Let's look at where you find mode there. You actually go to home here, so you push the little button that has a picture of home on it, and you choose number 5, which is settings, and we want to go down to I think handheld setup, which is number 3. Yes. And if we look, well, maybe not. Let's see. Nope, sorry. Wrong one. Let's do that again. Home. Settings. Document settings. There we go. I believe this is the one we want. Yes. And then notice right here you have the choice for radians or degrees and another type we haven't talked about. So let's start again with it in radians, and then we'll do, we can arrow down here till we get to OK, and hit enter. And now we can start a document here by selecting a calculator document, calculator sheet within our document, and we can do sine, cosine, and tangent of something here. So for example, all these trig functions are found under this button right here that says trig. So you click on that button there, and here are our choices: sine, cosine, and tangent, and some others we'll be learning about later. So we can choose, use the arrow keys to get it on sine, hit enter, put in the value there that we want to see for sine. So let's say sine of 0.5 again, and enter. And if you look, that's the same as what I got over here earlier. Okay. If I do similarly, I could do any of these. Say tangent of pi over 4, for example. Okay, I could get pi down here from this menu here has pi in it, and say pi over 4, and this should be 1. There we go. Now, you can also, again, I recommend using the degree symbol if you're just going to figure some of these out for degrees. So let's say we want to do the cosine of 25 degrees. We could put 25 here. The degree symbol, you can see it's right there. So if we hit Control and then this one with the book, it gives us a list of symbols. Degree is this one right here on the end of the first row. Hit Enter. There's our degree symbol, and it will do that. Now notice this particular one is the computer algebra version. So if you don't have the computer algebra version, this will probably give you a decimal value here. If you have the computer algebra version, this gives you an exact value. It basically took that 25 degrees and just converted it to radians. So if I want to approximate that, I can just hit Control and Enter, and that gives me a decimal approximation. So I believe we're in mode over here on this calculator. So we're in the mode of degrees. So I believe that'll give me the same value which it did over there. Now we can also change our mode to degrees over here, like we saw by going to Home, Settings, Document Settings. Now, sometimes we can want to go backwards from this. Sometimes we know what the sine of the angle is, and we want to find what the angle is. So we can do an inverse sine or arc sine. And over here on the TI-nspire, that's second sine for inverse sine, and we put the value in. Say we want to find which angle has a sine of 0.25. Now, if you remember, right now our mode is in degrees, so the answer to this will be an angle. It will be an angle in degrees. If our mode is in radians, okay, and we do the same thing, the answer will be in radians. So the angle, the acute angle, which has a sine of 0.25, is roughly 14.5 degrees, and that is about 0.253 radians. Okay, and you can do inverse sine, inverse cosine, and inverse tangent. Similarly, over here on this calculator, you still have the trig button there right below, so I could do inverse sine here of 0.25, and we're still in radians, so this one will come out in radians. Of course, another way to do it if you want degrees is to, of course, multiply by 180 and divide by pi, and that will give it to us in degrees as well. So that gives you an introduction to how we can use these on the calculator. Get comfortable with working these on your calculator, and from now on in the course, when we're doing calculations, we'll probably be allowed and expected to have a calculator to give us a very accurate answer.